What up, guys? Welcome to Forge Master Metal Reviews, the place where you can get the most out of your metal.
We are rounding up our favorite picks. Today we've got death metal.
Allegaeon, Damnum, released February 25th. Man, what a ride of an album. For those of you new to Allegaeon, and there aren't many, they are an absurdly talented, honestly underappreciated technical death metal band that leads into emotional territory with their songwriting. Sure, I think that's where the divisiveness comes in because tech death typically wants nothing frilly, but you guys can get the fuck out of here. Riley McShane's clean vocals, I'd argue, save this band from falling into another run-of-the-mill tech death band and helps them stand out immensely. Sure, you've got your superbly crafted death metal growls and blackened shrieks, but varied vocals with massively dynamic instrumentation truly make Damnum shine above other metal albums that have come out in 2022. How many tech death bands that you know have earworm choruses and acoustic / flamenco style acoustic riffs that are executed this pristine? You don't. There's a reason these dudes found a home on Metal Blade. They're crushing it and still growing. 4.6 out of 5 Necromancer's study room.
I slept on this album for too long. I finally listened to it the other week, and I was just floored.
It's insane.
It's crazy good. Venom Prison's Erebos is first on my list here today. This was a record that received some mixed reviews in the metal community, but overall, we thought it was a very fancy record here at Forge Master. The thing that Venom Prison does best is navigates the extreme melodic death elements with the hardcore and punk influences, truly making this the metalcore that I hope everyone would think of when that subgenre is talked about. The diversity on this record is stunning, and it really begs for repeat listens so you can really soak everything in. The clean vocals are really a welcome addition to this group, and while the music isn't overtly technical, there are some prog elements that keep things interesting and not just basic 4/4 to the floor kind of shit. This album is probably the least death metal on my list, but it absolutely deserves a spot among these more brutal and vicious records. Actually, I think it pairs very nicely with Allegaeon in terms of its emotional capacity. If nothing else, Venom Prison has put out the best metalcore record of 2022. 4.6 out of 5 Hushed Survivors.
Killer album art too. One of the best of the year. Septicflesh, Modern Primitive, released May 20th. It's been 31 years since their Forgotten Paths demo, and these Greek titans have just released their 10th full-length studio album, and boy, does it frickin' slap, dude. In this day and age, symphonic death metal inspired bands have become quite popular, but Septicflesh are truly the OGs of the kind. The riffs, man, the drumming, the orchestration on this album are a goddamn masterpiece to behold. Cinematic and score, Modern Primitive takes you through an apocalyptic wasteland overrun by unholy Greek creatures, if those exist. This album is massive in scope on all fronts, with a ton of variation and death metal sound where things never really get tiring on the ears. The vocals are fantastic here, favoring clean and harsh tones in addition to Middle Eastern flares all over the music. Easily one of the best in their frickin' discography. 4.7 out of 5 skulls full of skulls.
If you are into this symphonic deathcore thing that's happening right now and you've never heard of this band, you need to take a step back and realize that Septicflesh has been doing it for decades, and they are the masters of it. All That Was Promised sure lived up to its promise of being one of Hath's best records. Brendan, you actually put this band on my radar a few years ago with their debut full-length of Rot and Ruin.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. We talk about the sophomore slump over here sometimes, and that's when an artist comes out with this phenomenal debut release, and then they kind of struggle to follow it up with their next one. To no one's surprise, Hath is masterful enough to completely slip the slump and has become one of my favorite death metal records of 2022. This band knows how to unleash the fury, bring you down a little bit with some melodic prog-inspired elements, and then snap you in half with some ravaging black metal influences. Sometimes I want a death metal record that feels as introspective as it does brutal, and that's exactly what Hath has delivered here. The prog elements take you inside your own mind, and then the blackened death really helps to tear apart concepts of reality, leaving you grounded and highly entertained. In my notes, I actually put Where Owls Know My Name Part 2. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but if you really wish that Rivers of Nihil went for a more death metal approach on their last record, I think this album is going to fill the gap for you. One of my first gold metal records of all year. All That Was Promised sits very comfortably at 4.8 out of 5 Ravens Watching the Boneyard. My favorite death metal record of the year, hands down.
They really delivered on that promise. Decapitated. Cancer Culture released May 27th on Nuclear Blast. I feel so spoiled in 2022 that we're getting another Decapitated record. I have to admit, though, it wasn't until that we did that discography ranking with our good friend over at Paragene's Reviews that I never really gave Decapitated's later discography much of a chance. This Polish extreme metal band have released their 8th full-length record, and I have to say, these boys can not only still play some of the best extreme metal in the modern death metal landscape, these guys can fucking innovate too. Clocking in around 37 minutes, Cancer Culture is tight, not only in the songwriting execution, but also in the production. Tight. Sure, the sound on it is pristine, but in a way, it's kind of a great mockery of what metal has become in its production culture while writing devastating tunes, which is kind of cool that they called it Cancer Culture. Easily one of the best of the year so far in the extreme death metal category. Do not miss this album. 4.7 out of 5 Skinless Librarians.
Yo, Corpsegrinder's self-title gets a lot of love around here, and for damn good reason. I didn't know what to think of this going in. Is it going to be a gimmick? Is it going to sound like Monstrosity and Cannibal Corpse smashed into one? Well, the answer is more complicated than just yes or no, because it's fucking all of the above, really. Corpsegrinder is a self-aware dude. He knows that he is a powerhouse of a vocalist, has been for decades, yet he still remains humble enough to not act like a douchebag about it. Kudos to you, George. To see him move forward with this project really makes me wonder, is he finally turning the key into douchebag territory? Is this just going to be like a self-worship wank fest? It's not in the least bit. If there's any wanking going on here, it's in the awesome riffing by Eric Rutan, who's featured on Acid Vat, and the rest of the riffs from Charlie Belmore of Kingdom of Sorrow. The pacing on this record is great. There's 10 songs at 31 minutes. It's relentless, but knows when to shut the fuck up and get out of the way and move on with it. Some insane riffs on this fucking record. It really feels unique from George's other projects. Corpsegrinder's self-titled is worthy of 4.5 out of 5. Berserk Corpsegrinders! I open up the door, bleeding, shredding hands, opens on my command.
Miseration, Black Miracles, and Dark Wonders, released April 22nd on Massacre Records. It's been about a decade since Miseration's last release, and boy, do these boys know how to freaking kill on this new record. This is a extremely well-crafted melodic black and death metal album that explores a ton of different vibes, from super fast to slow and also visceral and really intense at times. I came out of this album very impressed with the technical approach and melodic tendencies all over the record. The one thing I really loved, though, were the symphonic passages. They helped heighten the melodic approach and the compositions all over the record. The production is killer, too. Super polished, very well balanced, easily an Album of the Year contender, which is why it's on this list in the melodic death category. 4.5 out of 5, Lords of the Underdark.
Misery Index, motherfucker!
I wish I had a Slim Jim while you were saying that.
So the score I gave Misery Index's Complete Control doesn't really reflect how much I actually love the record. Since the early 2000s, Misery Index has been teaching us all about wealth inequality, class struggles, and social impoverishment through their unique blend of New York hardcore, death metal, and punk. Albums like Discordia and Heirs to Thievery are some of the most insane fucking records you will ever hear. If you've not yet scoped them, you have to do that. Really, this band can do no wrong, and Complete Control showcases that on all levels. Much like Corpsegrinder's self-titled, it gets in and out with 9 tracks at 34 minutes. Despite my score for this being a little lower than the Corpsegrinder record, Complete Control does something that Corpsegrinder and his team just can't do with their unique fusion of aforementioned genres. In fact, I don't think there are many other bands out there at all that are doing what Misery Index is doing at such a masterful and, as you said, consistent rate. Don't let my score of 4.2 out of 5 dictators sway you away from thinking this is worse than some of the other records. This is just another fantastic piece of work from one of our favorite bands that absolutely should not be missed.
Sentient horror, Rites of Gore. This was released on April 22nd on Redefining Darkness. This is straight up HM2 worship, just like the Swedish greats Entombed, but with a fresh coat of bloody paint. This album definitely does not reinvent the bone wheel. What the fuck is a bone wheel?
Bone meal wheel.
The bone meal wheel. But honestly, how many HM2 worship bands really do? Who cares? Sometimes more of a creepy badass thing is still freaking creepy and badass. The production is top notch, chainsaws everywhere, the riffs are swampy and gory as hell. There's nods even to early Floridian death metal riffing, which reminds me of moments of Scream Bloody Gore and Tomb of the Mutilated. To top it all off, the album was mixed by Johnny Peterson, a killer engineer by the way, and mastered by the one and only Dan Swano. So yeah, destroyer of an album, get in the crypts, check it out. 4.6 out of 5, Undead Priests.
Nihility's Beyond Human Concepts. A bit of an underground treat for you all here. Really, the death metal releases this year have been pretty damn good. And another thing that I've noticed is that there seems to be a trend so far with this year of bands putting albums that just come in, devastate you, and just leave you bloodied on its way out the door. Beyond Human Concepts does just that with 9 songs and a total runtime of just under a half hour. That means you can spin Nihility, Misery Index, and Corpsegrinder in just about 90 minutes, which is awesome. In that entire time, you might get through one Funeral Doom record. Just kidding, Funeral Doom, we love you.
Sometimes. One Funeral Doom riff.
Yeah, right. The human condition is explored through blistering riffs and chaos in this death metal album. There's no shortage of brutality as you're dragged over the jagged boulders that are the tracks on this record. I've been seeing some strong praise from very quiet corners of the internet on this record, but it's certainly not getting enough attention that it deserves. A strong death metal record that has stuck it out for 6 months now. This was released back in January. 4.5 out of 5, Creatures Among the Dark Matter. Best picks or death metal friends? Be sure to leave them down below in the comments.
Go with the gods, Forge Master, and remember the Rites of Gore. See you guys next time.
Be well.